ATV-TALK, the podcast. Sit down with your host industry professional, Leonard Duncan, as the men and women from the ATV world bring their behind-the-scenes stories to life. Every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And remember, dream big. It could be your story one day.
GBC Power Sports Tires, a division of Greenball Corp, has been producing industry-leading tires for ATV side-by-side market for over 25 years, with tires like Mongrel, Dirt Devil, TerraMaster, XC Master, Dirt Commander, and Groundbuster. They have a tire for your application. Top racers from GNCC, Works, and Best in the Desert rely on GBC Power Sports Tires. So why shouldn't you? Go check them out at gbctires.com to see the full line of tires they offer. Thank you very much.
Hey everybody, we have a special in-house episode. You've all know that we've had Mike Coe on before, but we got Mark Weixeldorfer, Wax, from former Team Honda rider. Mark, thank you so much for coming and sitting down with us. Mike, it's a pleasure to have you back. And we also have Danny Duncan, my dad, here also. We want to talk history. And you were just telling us before I hit record about the first three-wheeler that you rode. Would you mind telling us that again?
Well, I can say it was after a motocross race. I raced a 125 TS Suzuki. And anyway, coming home, I stopped, and a friend had an ATC 70 and rode it after the event. And liked it so much, I went and bought one the following Monday morning.
So your first ride was on an ATC 70.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take you before you got on a 90?
I don't recall that. I just know I bought a US 90, though, used out of Spring Valley, had the balloon rubber tires on it.
Right.
Old round fenders. It was lime green, I think it was.
Did you do a lot of racing? Did you race motorcycles before you got into the three-wheelers? Or was
That's what I was, motocross, yeah.
Motocross, no?
Right. AMA District 38 stuff, CMC, Carlsbad, just local.
Right. Was your specialty in motocross or was it desert?
Motocross.
On the motorcycles?
On a motorcycle, yeah.
And
only thing I knew about desert was a gentleman named John Gregory was a pharmacist in Bonita, and he had the hookup to the European motocross people, DeCoster and Robert and Hickey McCullough and those guys. And but he'd go to the desert on weekends and race his 400 Husky, and I'd tag along, and hang out with him because I worked at the Yamaha shop in National City at the time, and Bill Tusher, the guy that owned the Yamaha shop, was friends with him, and so him and John Gregory would go to the desert, and that's when they had, right before on any Sunday or something,
right,
when they were running the big four-strokes out in the desert. Anyway, John Gregory turned out to own JT Racing, which is an apparel.
Okay.
Which turned out to be a pretty big company.
Okay.
And John Gregory actually got my first pair of leather pants for me, too, and my motorcycle pants.
Real leather pants.
Real leather. Yeah, they didn't have nylons then or
right.
whatever we use now, plastic cups and things.
Yeah, well, it's not, they call them leathers. Put your leathers on.
Right.
They're not leathers in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
Yeah. Lauren had a pair of leathers. I don't think I ever had a pair of leathers back in the old, in the 70s, when he was racing XR75s, and then it's transitioned for, I guess, just a few years later into the nylon pants. But we didn't come here to talk about nylon pants. We came here to talk about ATVs and motorcycles. Like Mike, you got your start in motorcycles, and and in the 60s and the 70s?
70s.
Early 70s?
Yeah, I guess it'd be the late 60s, too. I didn't think about that, but yeah. I was 13 or 14 when I started work at the Yamaha shop. We sold Norton's, BSA, or Triumphs, Norton's, and Cotton Trials bikes and Yamaha.
Were you familiar with that shop, Dad?
In National City was right on the edge of
I think I knew of it, but
Anyway, that's Bruce Parker worked there, and he was a service rider. and I was a bike assembler, gopher in the back, putting them together. And of course, like everything, you go parts department and in service, and
It seems like most of the riders had worked at different shops, because Nicholson worked for me at Valley for a short time.
Nick Nicholson?
Nick, yeah, and building the frames. In fact, I was racing in Montesa, and he built a pipe for it and improved it immensely.
So how many, you guys know everybody in the early era of ATVs in Southern California, I'm assuming.
Pretty.
Well, probably most of them anyway.
Yeah.
I know Mark and Nick are really good friends. They used to go back, except from the beginning. We actually go to those Wednesday El Cajon car shows things, and Nick's got a bunch of cool hot rods that he's put together. And Mark gave me a ride in one last Wednesday or the Wednesday.
Yeah, I get to exercising for him.
Oh, nice.
It's got a heavy powered rat rod that it's really, really neat.
I was looking at your Model A license plate frame. I just bought a 28 Model A pickup truck from him. It's a 29 up there, but
Dad's got a 29. When we're all done here, we'll show you some pictures, because right here was the 29 staging area for putting it all together, getting it all piled up so that we could get the final assembly done.
original type style.
Original.
Car keys all pointing in the right direction. Original.
No, I did not build it for show. It's for function. I done all of the stuff you're supposed to, and but I got electronic ignition on it, and
should make it easy for modern driving.
yes.
Got rid of Babbitt bearings in.
No. I have some insert engines out in the garage. When back in 2004, my brother was a Model A fanatic, and he got cancer and died, and I bought all of his Model A stuff and became a Model A enthusiast. And
I grew up as a real youngster around Model A's and restorations, and still have 4 brand new Champion spark plugs with Ford scripts sealed in Cosmoline in an original box.
yeah,
I keep them in my china cabinet at home,
yeah, I've got some old original used ones.
Right. Well, we had a set of 8. 4 went in the car, and I asked my dad for the other 4, and so I still have them.
Mark's got a treasure trove of just cool, unbelievable stuff in his garage.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. It's really
the things that, guys from my era that make us smile, you don't get that many people anymore that really understand the value and how cool some of this stuff is. That, like a spark plug. In the package, original like that, how cool is that?
Right.
And how many are you going to see?
Not too many anymore. I mean, if you're in an air museum quality or something. It's like the mirror with the clock in it and quail wings, for the thermometer on the. There's new original ones in the showcase too. Because this is in the 60s, and things were easier to get original. Mm-hmm. And now everything's reproduced,
Yeah, and they don't make it near the quality. It's not heavy. It doesn't have the same feel. So you probably notice instantly the remakes versus the originals. Mm-hmm. That's so cool.
Mark gave me a quick tour of his garage, man. It's like the total bitch man cave. It was like food god for a week in there.
You're all oohing and ahhing about everything, huh?
Yeah,
we all do when we go to somebody else's house.
Yeah, right.
His treasure trove is way up there, especially compared to mine. I really got nothing.
Well, and speaking about 3-wheeler stuff,
do you have some of the original 3-wheeler stuff still?
Mm-hmm.
So, as far as memorabilia from Honda time, you still have some of that as well?
Yes, I do.
Really? That's so cool.
I got posters, stickers, shirts, flags, I collected it all, well, what I thought was all.
Were you always a collector from a young age?
No, hoarder.
Well, hoarder, collector, I mean, fine line, right?
No, I don't know. I do the same thing with Volkswagen stuff too.
Really?
That's how I bought my first house, was buying, selling, making Baja bugs. So when Bill Silverthorne owned Lemon Grove Suzuki.
Yep.
And the off-road shop across the street. You go out and buy your fiberglass fenders and build steam shocks and bumpers and come home and hack a 67 apart and make a Baja bug out, what we call the Baja bug, real off-road shit or stuff.
That's okay.
It's funny, the similarities that
Or
I don't know if
lifestyle.
it's recessive genes or whatever it might be, because I too was heavily into Volkswagens when I was younger, all that stuff, and Baja bugs, and I was in an industrial plastics class in high school. I was going to get into the plastics business. I was just a teenager, and I was making Baja bug kits for molds. So we had a chopper gun, and we were laying those things up, and everybody was knocking them off back then.
And I was making fiberglass sailboats off of metal hulls in junior high school, but I didn't like the fiberglass or the wood boat, so I made my own plug and my own boat, and just things you do.
Yeah.
We've lost so much of the ingenuity because in school they didn't teach some of that stuff when I went to the high school. We went to the same high school, and it was already phased out. I know he got to teach at LCAT for a while in small engines, but some of the programs we've lost so much ability to build cool things.
And like shop teacher in junior high, he let me ride my mini bike to school and park it in metal shop, so I didn't have to ride the bus.
Hoover Bay used to let me ride my three-wheeler.
Yeah.
I was riding the top of a mini bike then.
I had my three-wheeler. I could ride it from my house up to San Diego River Bed, right to LCAT, underneath the 67 bridge, all legal back then.
Yeah,
I lived in the Long Beach area when I was a teenager, and me and a guy that's about half again as big as me, he had a doodle bug, and we went everywhere on that doodle bug, which was just a
Little scooter, wasn't it?
little scooter. I mean, the two of us barely got on the seat, and we went everywhere on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if we ran out of gas a couple of times, and we just hitchhiked with it, somebody in a pickup would stop, we throw it in the back.
back when you could get away with that.
Yeah. There's no license on it, no lights, no stoplights, no nothing.
Yeah, Mike and I was telling him tonight about on the little 70, we'd take a 67 Volkswagen backup light, and they were a separate light, and that's what I put on the front of my ATC 70, and we rode at night all the time, like up Otay Mountains, and we could go everywhere from the house. So.
And back when you could, because now you can't.
No.
Yeah, you can't do any of that stuff anymore.
Yeah, scroll right all the way to the border from,
We bought this house because it was so much open thing, and I was racing, and I thought this would be bitchin' practice area,
Mm-hmm.
And turns out the only guy that lived in the middle of everything was anti-motorcycles, so him and I went round and round about me riding on his property. But
you had a 2-stroke with a noisy pipe or a 4-stroke?
Combination. I had the Triumph, I had a Montesa, Jawas.
We'll talk over something.
I never got a Bull Taco.
Sax?
Yeah, I got a Sax. Still got the frame. I don't know whatever happened to the engine out of it, but
We used to say Sax and Penton made a 10, ride them out and push them in.
The history that you guys are talking about is just, it's unbelievable.
well, it's like BSA bastard stopped again.
And back in the early 70s, the slogan was less sound, more ground. And it was they take the dB for the sound,
Right.
just a little, and then the B sideways for greater than or less than, and less than dBs and more ground. I still have the little Yamaha teardrop from, I guess it'd be 72, 73.
Nice.
So I guess those are 74 gas tank.
So as you rolled through getting a little older, how did you get into three-wheeler racing?
I had an incident. I worked at the Yamaha shop in the parts department. Anyway, had an incident where I didn't do something properly. which was a good lifelong lesson. In any event, I was relieved of my job, and that was on a Wednesday, and that night it's a Wednesday motocross race at South Bay Speedway. I hurt my knee, and I just couldn't ever really get on a motorcycle again without hurting my knee, but I rode my three-wheeler and had no problems. I don't believe in weird stuff, but that's the way it worked for me, and so that's kind of how it happened. I just parked the bike and started riding the three-wheeler.
And then you would race at 117, and did you take it to District 38s as well?
Took it everywhere we could find a race. We'd race, 4 times a week? Wednesday night here, Thursday night in Corona, Friday night in Ventura, and then Sunday wherever the Sunday race was.
We had some Indian dunes.
They were Indian Dunes. They were at 24th Street. They were down at the border at 905. They called it the Fiesta de la Luna race. Raced at Poway, AMA Motocross, and then up in Miramar, off the 805 up there, up past Governor Drive. They have motocross races out there too, in the AMA district. So.
And this is year range
74 era. Well, yeah, 74 to 76 probably.
Really?
That was when they were just building the 805, I think.
Yeah, I don't even know if it was built yet.
Once they got the 805 in that racetrack up in Miramar, they closed it down.
I had a handmade Rob Norris frame, 125 Noguchi, and it's Yamaha with hot rod parts on it. And that's what I was racing up there. And sheet metal swing arm disc brakes, before they were even a production item.
Nice.
Very lucky there. Ford Ring and his father brought Rob Norris over from England, and we all know what Rob Norris is. Well, maybe we don't, but he's an awesome fabricator.
Yeah.
You know him, Dad?
I know. Well, I've in his shop one time, but I know the work that he done.
He still hand makes frames for factory screen motors in Europe right now, road race cars, sidecars. They don't call them three wheelers or sidecars.
So he's still alive.
Yes. Yeah. Well, at least a couple of weeks ago it was.
So how old was he when he built that frame for you?
Gosh, I don't know. He's just a few years older than I am, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, so he was young. So he was a quality fabricator at a young age.
Oh, yeah. When he came to the United States, he was a world-renowned chassis builder. You read old magazines, even modern magazines, whatever they call these motorcycle deals now, and every once in a while it pops up a Rob Norris frame or Rob Norris this. I mean, he built all our gas tanks for us at Honda.
Oh, nice.
We're on the 85, the 200X, the 350X. I'd take them down to Rob and come back with a big handmade factory-looking gas tank.
And you couldn't tell that it wasn't.
No, they weren't homemade with them by any means.
Oh,
it's still not. I mean, the work this guy does is unbelievable. So he does airplane work now.
Well, yeah, that's where all the real money is, right?
No, he works at the EAA, Experimental Aircraft Association or something in Brownfield, down right by where we used to race our bikes at night.
Right. That's crazy. That is just, I never heard, I'd probably heard the name, but I didn't associate it.
He had a Lincoln Mark, whatever it was at that point in time, Continental, and I borrowed it from him to go to my prom in high school. Even though I came from a family with lots of automobiles, for some reason I borrowed his car. You don't want to borrow your family stuff.
Right. That's pretty awesome. So you raced that Yamaha or that custom machine until 74
or 5, maybe 76.
Okay. What transitioned after that? And when did you two guys?
First saw Mark at 117 racing down there. I was racing the smaller displacement classes, 132. They had kind of classes were separated by displacement.
Right.
And at South Bay, I think they had 3 segmented classes, and the real fast guys raced in the open class, which where Mark was at, and I was racing in the 132 class.
And I did.
Speaking of the 132 class, tell me what what you thought of the 132 class. You couldn't check it for displacement unless you pulled it apart.
Well,
And so,
mainly it was, I think, on the honor system. I know that one thing Sam was above all else is not cheating.
yeah, but there was so many guys that stretched that.
Whenever possible.
I don't know that it even mattered. We'd say, here, take our bike and we'll ride yours.
Yeah, well, I have one race in mind where my rider broke the good engine, supposedly, and I came home and put the 125 top end on it, and he thought it was faster than the one that he just got off of. And I never did tell him the difference. And he ran second to a half a Yamaha, whoever was running where they had slimmed down a twin and made it into a single with all that.
Was that AC?
I don't know. I've never heard of anybody trimming one of those down.
Well,
I'm not saying it wasn't.
it was extremely fast, and in fact, I don't remember ever looking at it. It's just I was told that it was half of a twin. Maybe it was just the top end off of the twin.
It could have been a cylinder or something.
Yeah.
Or they used the pistons from it or whatever.
Yeah, but anyway, it was extremely fast, and then he ran second to it on this what I thought was just a warmed up stalker, and he just made it run that day.
I remember Ace. To me, my first memories of any tri-motors was Ace was one of those. And they, of course, it was a two-stroke, so it was lighter, and they were quick, but initially they didn't handle very good. So that's why they were fairly competitive. We usually get a whole shot, but then a few turns you probably get around it.
And for me, I just rode my three-wheelers. There was, I guess, a period of 76 till 80 or something when the 250s first came out. But I just was riding mine in the canyon. I'd see Dean out riding, and there were little tracks, and you just start dogging each other, riding them. And a friend of mine showed up with a 132 when they were just first making them. Big Al on the Women Road, I think, was building. And I rode it, and it was like, wow, this is a lot of power. This is cool. Didn't know any better, any different. Just kept on riding my 90 or whatever it was. That's right, at the time, the 90. I used to start off what they call South Bay Freeway, or the 54, in the Spring Valley end, and you could ride all the way to National City. And I just picked 2 or 3 cars on the freeway and try to get all the way through the dirt hills down to National City and beat the cars. That was just something I did just for myself, I couldn't. Just having fun, and then it turned out we go off-road racing, and same thing,
Right.
Great place to learn to ride.
Those canyons were awesome. I grew up in Spring Valley, not too far from Mount Miguel High School, but there was a whole strip of dirt that paralleled this big creek, and I think it's Hamishaw Boulevard, and I only had to push my bike across 1 or 2 roads, and from there it was down past Okai reservoirs and just farmers' fields. You could say right all the way to the border.
Yep. And back then, you could probably go across the border, and nobody would have cared.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Something else that happened for me to get hooked up with the three-wheelers, we were racing our little 90s or 180s and whatever, the modified three-wheelers. They had a Bob 1000 one year. My dad went down, I stayed home. And that's the year Honda came out with the 250 ATCs. And they had 2 of them, I think, that rode down. It took them 13 or 18 hours to get from Ensenada to San Felipe. But one of them seized up or broke, and my dad happened to pick it up halfway down to San Felipe. And so that was kind of interesting. And here, my dad picks a broken 250 three-wheeler up, brand new in the United States, 3 of them. And brings it home, and yet I love three-wheelers, and I'm riding mine, had no idea what was happening there. And a couple of weeks after that, we got a call, because I knew the lady that owned Holiday Honda in Chula Vista. She introduced me to one of the sales reps, Spencer Sato, and he in turn got my name to Honda, along with a couple others. Anyway, they came down. We had a 2-day race at Southway Speedway, and that's when Honda showed up with these unmarked vans and the 253 wheelers. So it was kind of interesting. And shortly after that, what I started to say is they had the three of them do an exhibition at the Supercross race at whatever the stadium is in Mission Valley. And so we got to ride the three wheelers down there. It's just kind of neat how it all ties together.
That is pretty awesome. So that was your introduction to American Honda?
Yes, through the Holiday Honda motorcycle dealership. Because I'd go there after work every day and hang out with my friends. And so one thing led to another, and that was the connection. And then, Three Wheeler Magazine got involved, and we rode the Mexicali 250, and then the Parker 400, and then after that it was on. We were factory riders and got paid to do what we did.
If you think back on it now, getting paid to race Three
Oh,
Wheelers,
I would have paid them. No doubt about that.
I mean, that's how much you loved it?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, look at all we were doing on our own, too,
Right.
And how we could afford it then and we couldn't. Now we're like that. It's interesting. I mean, what you do, it didn't matter. We were going racing.
Right. You just figure it out.
Just doing it.
But you also had the ingenuity of being able to work on it yourself to a point, so you were doing a lot of the work yourself
All the work.
instead of
with the
farming it out.
exception of machining or, making the chassis. That's for me, Nick Nicholson come in. I don't know what you were riding in the early days.
I just rode stock frames.
And they broke and they were sheet metal.
In the 90s, Sam actually started doing that. He was working for Johnson's Bug Machine. He designed that Bandito frame. Because Nicholson made some great frames, and
Dean, he went with Dixon.
He had the Dixon frame, and then the other 3 frames around was the Bandito, the Nicholson, and Dixon.
Yeah, I remember that frame deal was a big thing when I was a kid, because you would see them and everybody would just be like, wow, I mean, I remember how excited we used to get over the 9110s, and then you look at what we ride now, and it's unbelievable transition.
The evolution was really quick. Like I said, we, from 70 to 90 to 110 to 180, and then Sam actually built a couple over 200 cc's from the 110 starting. Then we came out with the 250.
Yeah, but it was almost useless because all that power, you had to start almost in fourth gear to save the gearbox, or you babied it to get it going before you could just get on the power.
Well, maybe that one was just for sand dunes shooting the hill.
Well, it was, I think, bragging rights. Some,
Once we saw that 250R, then all bets were off.
Here's another good story. When we went to Parker the first time on Hot Dune Buggy VW magazine seal, we had a prototype and that we pre-ran on. Anyway, long story short, I rode it the last 20-some miles on 2 wheels because I had a flat tire getting in when we were pre-running in Parker. But we ended up trying to hide the thing in our hotel. Well, we didn't. We were in a hotel. We were in a trailer on the river. And so I was keeping the thing hidden after pre-run because I wanted to take it to Glamis. Nobody had seen these things before except one night at the stadium.
Right.
And it was going to be the coolest thing in the world, taking one of these 250s to the Glamis.
To sand dunes.
And we stopped there on the way home from Parker, went out through the dunes, typical first ride, 200 yards, 300 yards, and the axle broke. Because I fatigued it riding on one wheel. and they came down and they weren't skinny if they were solid or something.
They didn't taper you.
Yeah. Oh, that's too funny.
So
didn't get to even enjoy the dune ride.
No, trying to get excited about it. I mean, we pulled it off, but then, we got timed out.
How were the Honda guys with you when you guys did some of that stuff?
Well, in this case, they weren't any. I was had the thing in my van by myself. Just coming home from the races, the Parker race.
Right.
Because they didn't care about an old pre-production bike. We had to destroy it anyway. So
that brings me to a conversation that Mike and I have had, and a couple other people have had. Do you remember the 500 three-wheeler?
Which one?
Well, I only know of one. So
The Japanese one that Honda made?
yes,
I've seen it.
did you ever get to ride it?
Nope. Never heard it run even.
Just looked at it.
I think so, yeah.
Wow.
Yes. Did you?
It's 40 years ago. No, I never seen it. I've seen parts.
It was in special projects.
Yeah.
There was a room inside a building, and with a room inside of that. It's where they kept undisclosed things. So if you were able to get in there, you get to see all kinds of stuff.
Really? And you got to see some pretty cool things, I'm assuming. And you asked which 500. What was the other 500 that I'm not?
There was the 450s. This poster I was reading today, I found in the garage before I came over here. It said I was riding the 480 at Riverside. But actually, I think I was riding the early version of the 300 hop-up kit. It was the open class. Dean was on the 250. I rode a 480. He wrote it, but anyway, it said I was on the 480, but whatever.
You rode the 480?
Yeah.
And it was screaming fast, huh?
Very fast.
Way faster than you needed to go on a three-wheeler?
No.
Just vibrators.
It didn't even vibrate that much. I mean, it vibrated more than 250 without counterbalancer, but the way it sounded. We had some engineering knowledge from some other people because, without that counterbalancer, you could feel like we put a 500 motorcycle engine in a
Right.
Four-wheel, it's a flywheel weights, crankshaft weight things would help tame them a little bit.
The way the chassis is mounted too, like external weight spin versus narrow weights and stuff. Most motorcycle chassis go under the motor, so you've got clutch and flywheel out where most three-wheel frames. The engine was inboard at the chassis, so there was some harmonic things that were going on in there too. So again, that 480 that I had was on an 82 chassis. And, amazingly, it didn't vibrate that bad at all. It didn't shake it apart, never broke any welds, nothing.
And then we got the XR 500 engines we put in them and rocked those for a long time.
Did you guys did that for Honda?
No.
Or you
We
did that after?
did it for ourselves or for Nicholson Racing Products, and we just got to ride them and test them. He built it and we wrote it and beat it up.
And was that a project after you were done with Honda, or was that
We'll be during the middle of Honda.
during the middle of Honda?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't mind that you did things like that? Or they just didn't know?
No, it was.
I think they wanted it. They wanted to promote it. I mean, even Mickey Dunlap was building custom stuff.
And they were behind me when I built a 200 two-stroke too. Special little chromoly frame, and Bruce Parker did most of the machining and crankshaft work and cylinder bore on it. Again, I think Stan Zinn was involved in some of the piston selections for that. And then it went to Rob Selby, and he did the part work and cylinder head and pipes on Bill's pipes, did the pipe work. It worked extremely well at like Saddlebacks and those big tracks. You just go out and tear up your 200Xs.
Well, it's a two-stroke. I mean,
Oh yeah, but still, Curtis had them running really good though, four-stroke.
right.
But even then, the AMA rule was double the displacement. So that's what I think would cause a lot of havoc was the fact that it was equal displacement. So it was kind of unfair for the four-strokes. But yeah, I mean, for the most part at that time, Curtis and some of those guys with the four-strokes, you could see how good they were to hang with the two-cycle at the same time.
Oh, we made some 125s, those ATV motors too.
And Tommy rode a 125. Sam built the chassis on the road.
Mm-hmm.
But
We got to monkey around with all kinds of
yeah, Honda was really wanted to expand as much as they could to cover as many classes as they could because racing was, like Mark said, you could race almost every week.
And you guys helped them do a bunch of that development.
We just did it for ourselves,
It
and
was,
it
we
helped
were
us.
the development.
Right. Well, I mean, what I mean is they were benefiting on all the stuff that you guys were doing.
Yes and no, but not really, because when it was all said and done, we had meetings when Kawasaki came along. And they had the engineers come over from Japan that we had translators and couldn't understand. And several year and a quarter, half or whatever, then they come out with the 85, 250, water cooled, 6-speed tranny, all the good suspension, and that was all a derivative of round table talking, to beat Kawasaki or Yamaha or whoever.
That's pretty cool though, really. That you get all that development. On that, going back to that 500, do you think that if there wouldn't have been the law change, that 500 three-wheeler would have came out?
That, who knows? It's hard to say, because we don't have the big picture. We have the exciting part of, oh yeah, cool, neat, but, what's the real big picture for them? I don't know.
Yeah, because I was under the impression that they had production parts already made.
I don't know about something like that. We got 250R air-cooled frame parts kits that we ordered from Japan. All the little components before the frame was put together. They come over stacked up all, tied up little nice
tabs and brackets and
the whole frame in pieces.
Oh, that's so cool.
Unpainted.
Oh, so you could put it together and change it.
Use whatever little gusset or bracket or
put in and leave out, whatever you want.
So it was 100% factory, but it was, we weren't trying to disguise anything. It's just the way it was. Well, meet with factory parts, you have the option to use them now or get it.
And you couldn't get your hands on that stuff nowadays to save your life.
No, and there was when we first went to Honda, me and Dean and Ace, Bob Williams, right when the program first started, went and tested, rode in the parking lot of 253-wheeler, and they had this factory Japanese two-stroke pipe or pipe-on expansion chamber. And that was the bomb pipe I kept up. Fortunately, I got to, have control of it. And I used that thing in a lot of races, and it just made awesome horsepower. There's nothing, even the Dave Carter pipes wouldn't match it. I mean, it was a stamped pipe, too.
Really?
But most of those Carter pipes are pretty nice.
What year was that one?
Would have been the 82.
The first.
Yeah, the first ones.
It's probably working. Moved in or something.
Right, it was one of those, like we had a skid pan that was made out of white Teflon or nylon stuff. It mimicked a stock one, just unattainable. But
back then too, the CR top ends would interchange. Remember, you could get the CR cylinder.
So you could put a chrome line cylinder
built it on there. Already got the advanced cording, big exhaust port.
Were you around when? Who's all right? Your guy that used to work with you. It was our guy, a motocross guy. Your pipe guy.
Turner.
Paul Turner.
When he did those tests on 45 or 50 cylinders.
No, I wasn't around then, and I'm not even sure if we were affiliated with Paul then.
Paul Turner, there we go, yes.
Yeah, Lauren met Paul in 87. Was it 87? Yeah, it was 87. Yeah, it was 87.
Well, it was through Mark.
No, it was 86. They met Marty, and then that's how he got to Paul, was through Marty, and Lauren and Paul worked together in 87.
There's another three-wheeler story to go along with Saddleback. Don't know if it was 82 or 83, but anyway, we were racing at Saddleback. When we went up to the motocross shop, and we were able to go up there and get titanium bolts and fasteners from the race team. We thought we were, tricked. We got a neat bolt and nut on our bike or whatever. But anyway, so a couple of the riders loaned the two motocross mechanics, Steve Carter and Ricky Johnson's mechanic, Brian Haynes. Lunas, thank you. I'm sorry, I hadn't even thought of these names for years. But anyway, we gave each of those guys a three-wheeler, and they took them and hot rodded them or whatever, and showed up at Saddleback for a race. And we're just going, okay, cool. Here's the mechanics. They got a bike. They blew us a new door on the starting line and going around. I mean, they left us. They were gone. They had these things running so good. And of course, you get into the rough, and you go around because they weren't riders; they were mechanics. But
right,
the stuff they did with this bike, in a week's time. It was amazing.
Well, they took some of the knowledge they had from the motorcycles and dumped it right into the
They were
three-wheeler.
still real identical cylinders,
Interchangeable.
and stuff. It was quite interesting. The factory experience was pretty awesome.
I don't know why. It's I think it was in '85 when it came out, the '85 three-wheeler. Only 1 year, I think it was '84, CR cylinder would actually bolt on. Because beyond that, they would change the bolt pattern just a small amount, so you couldn't interchange the CR parts anymore.
Yeah, I wonder why they stopped that.
That's what I'm saying, because most motorcycle, Honda included, prior, you could swap in Kawasaki and Yamaha, you could put the more high-performance items you bolt right on.
Yeah, I
Honda
don't.
deviated for some reason at that point.
Yeah, who knows why? Probably a bean counter got involved in there somewhere and screwed it all up like most things,
You would know more as far as the continuation. So I'm up to date as far as like '89. I think was the last Honda quad.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But
And there's a CR cylinder that they would modify and take the power valve out of it and put that. Yep, the HPP cylinder.
Because before that, in my '85, '84, which also had that air chamber, I forget what they called them.
Oh, yes.
I ran that, and that was like the only one that would still bolt on the three-wheeler lower end. But
That was a power valve or something.
it was just a chamber. I forget. It wasn't a valve, nothing mechanical, not much.
Yeah, the HPPs had a mechanical valve in there. And what they would do is they would build machine plugs to put them in there. You've made some of those plugs. And they put those plugs in there and run those cylinders because the port timing and the casting would allow itself to make more power.
Going with Paul Turner, he had Honda, or had him in Japan make that cylinder with the extra big transfer ports on it, and then had it nickel or chrome plated.
Right.
So we had that chrome liner cylinder. It made a lot of horsepower, but there was something in the exhaust port that was monkeyed up and would catch the rings all the time. So they never really.
They never got to finish it.
Well, we raced them, and it did be junk at the end of the race sometimes.
Right.
Way junk.
I think the hard coating process has gotten so much better.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they just, my brother builds his own cylinder now for the 89, well, the 250R, and it's mixed to hard coated, and it was designed that way. It's got a power valve in it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So
You use a cast iron rings for the wear item on the chrome board.
it's just the regular rings that, I believe they're cast iron.
Yeah,
Aren't they?
they have to be
The rings?
Yeah, you can't use the chrome.
chrome rings on a cast iron.
You don't go with that.
Mhm.
One of them has to be the consumable.
Needs to be the softer one.
Yeah,
So
Anyway.
undoubtedly it's the ring.
it must be the ring because everything that you buy now will work in a chrome cylinder. So all the Wise code
Yeah.
250R
They're all made
pistons.
for it.
Yeah, they're all made for the chrome liner.
It's like
Because the CR and the 250R stuff, or the TRX stuff, was interchangeable for different years. So they make it all work. I'm not the engine guy. I don't know all of the ins and outs for it, so it's hard for me to answer some of those questions. Lauren is the one that handles all that stuff because he really gets into it, and that's what he likes to do is develop engine work. And Pops, has been a guiding force in helping him. So
You gotta have somebody whittle it to make it,
yeah,
That's mainly what I do. They tell me what they need and then
You go out and shop and you do
try to do it.
sit in Whittle Club and
yeah. I mean, Lauren's been porting cylinders for us. When he took over Turner in '88, he's been doing all the cylinders since. So all of those cylinders were all done by my brother. Not a lot of people know that. Not a lot of people even realize that because Duncan Racing and Paul Turner Racing were separate entities for so long.
that the public knew. Well, they were to begin with, yeah.
Yeah, and then when
they merged or whatever.
Well, when Lauren bought Paul Turner, he bought everything. He started porting all the cylinders. Paul helped him, obviously, but that's how that transpired.
Paul Turner port job was like having a Big Al 180 alcohol marine three-wheeler, a 90 engine. You got a Big Al engine in the three-wheeler days, we were going to the front.
Well, you know who worked with Big Al a lot, right?
Joe Phillipson.
Yeah.
Or you also?
My dad did a lot of the machining work for Phillips.
You said something about that Duncan racing or whatever.
Well, Danny Duncan.
Yeah,
Danny's Machine Works. Is that what it was?
It was a play because I was doing Ricky's Yamahas, and when I decided to have the business, it was Danny's Machine Works, and everybody thought it was a machine shop. Well, basically it was, but it was just a play on.
And sleeves. Danny was doing.
Well, I was in competition with Bruce.
Yeah.
And Phillipson.
Joe Phillipson, he was the money guy.
He was a lot of things.
You mean like a 5-gallon can of gasoline in the campfire when you're at the desert?
Something like that.
A GI can?
Come through the shop and borrowed all the buck knives because he had a deal and he was going to replace them. I'm still waiting for my knife to show up.
Was a good guy. He was also around the Yamaha shop when Rucker and
well, he's the one. He must have sold a lot of three-wheelers because he would do wheelies up and down in front of the shop. And everybody'd stand and watch him. And he wore out a set of tires just doing wheelies at the shop. But he had me design a bunch of stuff for Big Al's.
And when we talk about Big Al's, there's two Big Al's. There's a Big Al himself, Al Gerhardt, and then what he sold to Phillipson for the name, and then they went to Taiwan, and that's when they Chinesed everything. And that's where it really exploded.
I can't remember the guy that went to Taiwan.
It was Phillipson.
Yeah.
No, Phillipson. There was a big heavy-set guy that worked for. I don't even remember when. Anyway, I sent a bunch of stuff over there to have duplicated, and I put everything in writing, the dimensions, but the model I sent had a flaw. Well, when I come back, it had a flaw. And at that time, Joe says, if you're going to have anything made, make the order big the first time because somebody will have copied it before you get the second order.
Correct.
And so I just passed because I didn't want to fight the flaw.
You remember what the flaw was?
About a half a degree.
On the stroke of the crankshaft?
Not on the crankshaft. It was on just the cam sprocket, so that you could dial a cam sprocket in really easy, which nobody seemed to do. It worked fine when you just shove it in the hole. So
we had to slot ours.
Well, if you wanted everything to work like it's supposed to, that's what you did, and that's what I was planning on. But
yeah.
You know, a stupid little thing on the little 94 strokes of the Big Al motors was the points plate. Instead of replacing the points, you replace the plate from Honda with the points assembled on it already. And it seemed like the motor would be way different with one of those. See, those are little things that come along that made the difference at the end of the night or the straightaway.
That's when I'm glad when the 110s came out, we had electronic
CDI, yep.
Yeah.
I can see that's where we came into it at the point deal, but instantly transitioned into the
185
so that it was all, you didn't have points anymore. So I didn't have to master doing that, even though he would still make us work on some of the stuff that did have it in there and made us learn how to do it. I haven't messed with the set of points. And shit.
Well, that's the best thing that happened is take them points out of there.
Yeah. Well, I think the early Hondas, the points were on the crank, and then for whatever reason, they didn't like them sparking on the exhaust stroke, so they put them up on the cam. But then the early Hondas, when we started hot rodding them out, the they were just plain bearings. The cam were right in the head. There was no needle bearings or anything like that. It's very similar. So when it got really super hot sometimes, the head would get, big and the cam would start bouncing around and you'd think you're floating the valves or something. It's just that the point cap was just all over the place and they would start shooting ducks and everything else. You wouldn't know what's wrong with the thing. It's just because it was getting hot and it would wear out too. So then they started modifying the cams in the head to accept needle bearings. That was, an evolution up in there, and then that's what they started doing on 200Xs. And Kenny Harmon, builder.
I worked with Kenny quite a bit. I had some problems, and he took the time to explain what was going on to me.
There's a lot happening in a cam or valve train with the change and the fluctuations, and when you get RPMs, you get frequencies and all kinds of things going on before you get valve harmonics. Yes, the pulsations on the cams, every time it goes over the load, and there's so much that goes on in an engine that
that's why I like singles. You do them fours, it's just more work because you got more cylinders to worry about.
True. What you do when you're a youngster and you just, the green weenie air cleaner is a filter on air cleaner sock you put on, and then you go to the factory and you start, listening to the engineers and you realize, oh, we need an airbox on that thing. We need a lid on that airbox. Oh, put the silencer back on it. We'll go faster down the road. One Mike here, he came out with a stock pipe when we were down in Mexico testing one day, top speed with a radar gun. He goes, watch this. He puts his stock pipe on. Out miles per hour is this 3 or 4 or 5 something. It was substantial. Yeah. So in a 25-mile section of pavement, you're talking a minute or two.
Right. If it was in a drag race, it wouldn't accelerate, but then even with the same gearing,
you stop in and start going.
Well, they couldn't design the things to be too slow. But, a lot of people just took the silencer off or put the big old anchor silencer off and put an aluminum silencer on there.
Well, the mentality was the noise is going to make it go faster.
Same thing's happening today with the little Japanese cars and those big mufflers.
Yeah.
Mirror Mesa Big Pipe, I call it.
That's a good one. Mirror Mesa Big Pipe. I like it.
Yeah.
When I lived in Mirror Mesa, man, all the kids with those, we call them 5-speed chainsaws on the Hondas.
And you see them in traffic, and they're making, even these Mustangs, they make all this noise, and they're not going that much faster.
They're burning a lot of gas at $6 a gallon.
You hear them downshifting, they're doing 70. And you like to hear it or something.
That's got to be, It goes back to that less sound, more ground thing. Why draw attention to yourself? But when you're young,
right.
You don't hear a guy breaking the law or speeding going down the road unless he's got a loud pipe, and then you look.
Right. So you keep it quiet.
That was that way when I was really young too. One more thing about because I used to have Volkswagen on the brand too. And my best running engines had Kenny Harmon cams. We made a good Volkswagen cam too. But I had my Baja Bug, had that little stinger thing, and of course there was never any
putting the coffee can on it at night when it would rain.
My friend Larry Proctor and I remember we went to Parker 400 in my Baja Bug one year before I raced, just over to Lake Havasu and moved off, had a floor jack in the back so we could adjust the spring plates because they'd sack out on us. It was things you do. Well, it's like Dean Sundahl and myself, going to the desert, just truck breaking, halfway out there and get it fixed and make it to the desert and get back home. Yeah, that's how it started in our 3-wheeler stuff.
Well, I can remember going to the races with a dime for a phone call and entry fee. Mm-hmm. I didn't have any money, and you just hope you didn't get hurt or nothing broke.
Yep.
But
I can remember the dime thing. I can remember those old coolers used to open up and a dime would get you a Pepsi or whatever.
Right, the vertical lift up metal thing in the glass wall.
Yep. I can remember asking my dad for a dime so I could get a soda, and he'd say, "What do you want a dime for?" So you can call all your friends. I didn't even get it. I just was thirsty. I remember as an adult, those dadisms come back.
Exactly. So how long did you stay with Honda?
81 through 87.
Forever. He was with Honda from the beginning to the end.
You were there longer than anybody else.
He was.
Yeah, I guess so. If you look at it that way, yeah. Because Ace got hurt and Dean moved to Yamaha.
And you and Dean are you still close? Or
No, I haven't seen Dean for years.
I know he says that he's going to come and sit down with me and talk with me. I'm going to have to do something about a real strong mic because he talks so soft now you can hardly hear him. But he could sure post a lot of photos. He does on social media. He's on there quite a bit. You rode a lot with Dean during the time you were with Honda or during your racing time?
Yeah, and before Honda too. Dean actually, I remember his picture in a magazine. It was a Dean Sundahl, factory Honda rider. I always remember the factory. Next thing you know, here we are. So we all were.
I had, for the longest time, I don't know what happened to it, but I had a magazine. This is back the desert seat with wax on the back of it, and the picture of you guys. I don't even remember. I know you were in the picture, but I don't remember who else was. But
remember the Baja 1000 and 500s and stuff on the starting line for a few years. Everybody had a wax on seat, and I think High Flight came along with one.
Yep,
you had competition and seat or something like that.
Yeah. Yep. Seat came out in High Flight, and they were the seat manufacturers for till deep into the 90s somewhere. Mm-hmm. And then now there's Quad Tech and multiple others. Seat's still in business, but I don't know about High Flight.
Seat Concepts too. That's what I got on my KTM. They make seats.
It's probably the same.
My first outside sponsor was Terry Cable.
They're still in business.
Oh yeah, they had great cables. I mean, you time it or not, and they'd still work super easy. That was the whole thing too. In their machines up there, they had old red grease rags holding the levers. And, it was really antiquated machines, but they spun a lot of parts.
They still do a pretty good business, to my knowledge.
They're right up the top of the hill going up to.
Yeah, they're still there, to my knowledge. Mm-hmm. And the young man that works in there doesn't know as much, but he's doing his best to keep the business rolling. I don't know if they had an ownership transition or.
Yeah, I don't know that. They were great cables. They were awesome. And they'd make them with one end, and we could solder our own, make our own, or whatever you wanted to do it for you.
Yeah, they're still pretty much the best custom setup. Yeah. The only other cable company I know of is Motion Pro, and that's all China stuff. Pre-made fit.
I forget the gentleman's name, but WFO was the next sponsor, I think, to come along, and then Ram steering stabilizers.
I remember Ram steering stabilizer.
And that was a Volkswagen steering dampener.
Yep, that's all it was. Yeah, that's all it was.
Put an extension or a Heim on the end of it, make a little bracket for the different bikes, and sell them.
Yeah.
That was forever.
Now that Scott's, I guess that's a nice one for
motorcycles.
Well,
ATVs.
We use GPRs. So yeah, they're
like a little Oldens or a little shop.
No, it's gosh, they have a special. It's like a radio an arm, and it just works on oil flow in there. And as you turn
like a door closer.
Yeah, as you turn the valve up, it's harder and softer. I've been with Randy since '89 or '98 when they brought the first one over and handed it to me for Doug Eichner. We put it on the 400EX and been using them ever since.
At first, you kind of don't like them, but they really do. On a four-wheeler and three-wheeler, they're kind of neat.
Yeah, the four-wheeler stuff with as wide a front end, because we're 50 inches wide now, long travel, and the wheels are all over the place. You have to run a steering dampener. Well, you don't have to, but, if you want to go fast and not get tired, you do. Mm-hmm. It's just evolution of the industry.
I was thinking I needed one or wanted one on my motorcycle the other day, and I realized, I think Mike's the one. Check your tire So,
When we were when I was working in the motorcycle shop, one of the first things we would do is check the air pressure, because if they were low and you put them at the right pressure, it made the bike just 100% better, and everybody think, oh God, what did you do? Well, just done what you were supposed to do, But it was amazing how many guys would come in with so low a pressure. It's amazing that they had any control at all, But my racing started long before yours. And when the first bike I got was a Dot, and the air cleaner on it was like Chore Girl, was brass shavings, just to kick the rocks out.
Right, like a Brillo pad.
Yeah, like a Brillo pad in there, and it would keep the big crunchy stuff
I
out.
think that's what I had in my Voltaco, was a mesh.
Well, anyway, I went through several pistons, and being young and dumb, I didn't put the two together. And then when I got a BSA that was quite a bit better, same thing happened, and got to do something about it. So I went down and bought a big Fram tube, and then made me the old duct tape and everything.
Media
And amazingly, I got more than one race of piston. But after that, I figured I got to have good air cleaners on everything. So.
There was a difference between a three-wheeler and a motocross bike and the 250s, two-stroke stuff with Honda, at least. Pushing all the frontal air with the wider machine than the motorcycle, compression ratios were real critical. To not putting a hole on the top of the piston and to really be on top of your co-cranking pressure made all the difference in the world to survive or burn up.
I know when we were in Honda, we were sponsored by K&N. It's the same thing, and those K&N filters suck so much dirt.
I raced with both of those guys.
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem. I like my K&N.
Dude, that's all we use now.
They flow good.
That's all we
You
use.
hold them up to the light, you can see right through them.
Yeah, but they still filter.
You gotta have a foam over it or something.
There's schools of thought. We could get into a deep dive into a conversation on air filters, but
And we just ran them open, and it gets so dirty. But we didn't matter because we had access. We always had 2 or 3 freshly ported cylinders standing
Right.
ready to go. But when your dad reminded me that, I can remember, it's like after a race or two, man, you had to bore it to the first over because it's the thing. It's sometimes
because you guys didn't maintain anything. You just rode it.
No, we maintained it.
If you were paying the bill, you'd have maintained better.
We had to maintain our own stuff. We didn't have mechanics yet. So in that time frame, 81, 82, probably we didn't get a lot of help until the middle of 84. And yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like after a saddleback run, just brand new, because we had unlimited amount of filters, so you could always put a brand new one on there. But like after a race, you take that filter off and you see freaking dirt in your carburetor.
And because you didn't put enough oil on it.
Well, they were already oiled.
No, they weren't oiled. That's the key. They say they're oiled, but they're not.
We oiled them. We had all the cleaner and sprays and everything. There's plenty of oil on there. They just still suck dirt.
Now maybe the technology's way better now because
They were better when they loaded up a little bit too. Which
that's possible. Maybe I should have left it dirty and it would have worked better.
Then we put a lid on our air cleaner that had the K&N filter in the top of the lid.
No, I mean, they make them. I mean, I know they flow more, but I think they suck dirt. But it's just like everything,
Hot rod rods showed K&N filters on the dyno on a V8 engine, but one was the filter in the top and all that. That was the one that worked the best.
Yeah, airflow is optimal, but
right.
But protection is important too.
Like apparel. I had CD's boot sponsor, and they give me boots, but you got to break them in. You get the photo in the magazine, you can't wear a brand new pair of boots all the time because you can't shift or use brakes to learn. Yeah. See,
How did you guys break your boots in back then? Because I know that the old school boot
was way less rider friendly than today.
I'd soak mine in water sometimes and then walk in until they dry out and you're good to go.
That's exactly what I always was
That's
taught
always
to.
old school. Everybody did that.
Yeah.
Well,
Fill them full of warm water, put your feet in them.
But mine at the time, I lived in a condo. We had a jacuzzi, and I just put them on and go to the jacuzzi.
until we got the white boots, and then it was like, you want to keep them clean.
I never had any white ones.
Then it had gators too.
You had gators to cover. That was what really helped, because then you could wear your broken boots and just cover them up.
The new gator, right.
How long were those in fashion? For a couple of years, right?
Well, probably 84, maybe 85 to 87.
I didn't wear them a whole lot because my boot sponsor, they wanted to be seen. I wore CD boots. Mark was sponsored by JT. I wore JT stuff towards the end.
Another thing with John Gregory that owns JT Racing, he's the first one to import twin air filters too, which now it's a pretty big company. You're doing something different.
Right.
He's not involved, but remember back in the 74 era, we had twin air filters too.
I didn't even know twin air was around that long.
Oh, yeah.
And Alan Green up at the Nobby shop, he was a rental guy. So we got all our rental bars.
Remember the Nobby shop is under the bridge on I-5.
I remember the decals for that.
Yeah. I used to ride my three-wheeler from Spring Valley, or not from Spring Valley, but from Lakeside. I grew up when I was going to El Cap, all the way to the Nobby shop. I had to cross one street, which wasn't the 15 wasn't done, so you had to cross the 395. There was a blinking light there where Miramar Boulevard went up like halfway because there was no 805. You had to cross the 395 and went over all the hills past the Navy base, and then you could ride all the way to the Nobby shop. In fact, it's the Sereno Preserve. Remember, there's like a waterfall in there, and you probably hiked in there with your kids.
Probably.
Everybody in Jeeps and bikes. It was only maybe a mile or two from the Nobby shop. You get in there and you don't get a soda. My buddy lost a master link out in the hills, out in Sycamore. And I rode all over to the Nobby shop, got a master link, and came back and put the thing back on the dirt, get it going.
He raced in Poway too, AMA District. I just was thinking, that's when Big Al worked for Honolulu Grove. And Dallas Martinson owned Honda at the time, or that dealership, at a Champion Frame, something or other, 250 single or whatever it was.
That's when the Big Al from Honolulu.
Bill Silverthorne.
That
He was a hero in Baja
Bill Silverthorne
at the time.
Yeah. Didn't he race flat track with us up there at Comp Park?
Yeah, that was kind of the end of his career when he raced up there.
Yeah, we used to race flat track up there at Competition Park, and he would come out and ride every once in a while. I remember seeing him when I was a young kid, and when I seen him when he was older, looked like the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know, whatever he was drinking, he just kept drinking it because he didn't look like he aged. And then we seen him not too long ago, and you could definitely say he caught up to him in a big hurry.
He was pretty fast in District 38 too.
Well, he was like one of those Whiting Martino guys out in the desert on any Sunday. He was just gone down in Baja and stuff too.
The talent pool of motorcycle riders that transitioned, or the talent pool of riders that we had from the 60s, 70s, 80s in Southern California and some into the 90s is incredible.
I think it has a lot to do with land use.
Yep.
You could go 10 minutes away and then you could ride all you wanted.
I raced right up the freeway. Just before you get into Alpine, there was a track there.
Okay, and then Live Oak Springs was another one up the hill a little further. That was an AMA motocross deal. In the hot summer, you're riding into the trees and the little creek and stuff. It was like
up there was San Diego Country Estates. They called it Four Corners.
Four Corners. That had the red dirt.
Yeah, that was
stained your jerseys and stuff.
Was it that close? Yeah.
That's when the House of Honda was around. Billy Urban and Robbie Norgard and William Pena and those guys were riding CZs back then.
My next door neighbor, like I said, he had a DT1 and he had some knobby tires on it. He raced it at Four Corners.
Yeah,
Didn't we race at Four Corners?
We raced at Four Corners.
Yeah,
when that was going
that's all
on,
San Diego Country Estates. Now it's all
Yeah.
Verona was just, they had a tent out there at the corner of the dip, the big road, long before they had the casino, they were doing bingo stuff.
Right.
Drive up Wildcat Canyon Road every Sunday morning,
Yeah.
nervous butterflies.
I can remember leaving money up there all the time. my wife liked that.
Like the casino, yep. Yeah,
it was in a tent.
we used to race. They had the motorcycle track when we were kids, CMMC.
still there.
Yep. It's just not, now it's everything.
Yeah.
I don't even know how many races they have up there.
I forget who was with me, Dean, somebody else, but we went and met up on Verona before there was any racetrack at Verona, and met the chief. He come riding his horse up over the hill or whatever and started mapping out, walking the land up there where they got the racetrack. I don't know if it's right where it is now. I haven't been to where it's really full on track, but it's involved in the layout of that first Verona racetrack.
There was this white liaison, I think his name was Wetzel or something like that.
Yeah,
He kind of ran it for the Indians back then.
Right.
with Verona.
And that's the track that was up on top of the hill, not the motorcycle track. Yeah, it's still in the same place. I don't think they have more of an ATV style deal. They have a drag strip there now.
We've got a quarter mile oval. That's what they got.
Yeah, because we raced motorcycles up there.
Or something like that.
But some of the old three-wheeler motocross track is still, you can still see some remnants of it there.
I remember back in the 90s when I actually promoted for one season, they allowed ATVs almost 1/6 mile oval. And they had ATV races. I think you came to some of those.
I believe I did.
You were helping a kid that went into the Border Patrol. I can't remember his name right now, but he was riding for you guys at the time. Sam was racing his Banshee, one that I raced at place.
Yeah, okay, I remember that. Yep. Yeah, we went up there a few times.
I formatted them just like the car, so they all went out for their 2 or 3 lap qualifying, and then they would, they had a rolling start, and it was never really any bad wrecks. It was I liked it because it was similar to what they were doing. It wasn't a mass start. It was 2x2 just like the cars.
And that's the way that style of racing should go. Yeah, my son-in-law goes up there and races. He has a car that goes up there and races.
Modified or something.
You know what? I don't know what it is. I don't even. I see it in the garage. Yeah, great. I'm not. I've never been really into cars, so it's not something that excites me.
Sam, for probably 3 or 4 years, built a lot of Chevy V8s for a number of those circuit track guys, playing with different ball and stroke combinations, whatever. Seemed to be the happy combination at the time. But that was, like I said, when they first made the quarter mile up there. It's just, modifieds and we were doing those motorcycle powered mini sprints, I think they call them.
Yeah, what were those freaking cars with the? Remember Scribbolito used to freaking race the dwarf cars. Yeah, they still do those dwarf cars. They're bigger. They moved kind of east, so they race more of them in the east. But
Squib was doing. A lot of people were doing it. Even the guy that built those off-road chassis, his son was racing. He was doing real well. He won a lot of races up there.
Yeah, dwarf cars. Never got the concept, but they were cool.
They were popular too, man.
Yeah.
I don't know how many inline motorcycle engines Sam was always. That's where Cal kept his doors open, building Suzuki and Yamaha Ford motorcycle engines that,
for the dwarf car group.
The military guys would wad up their street bikes on the weekends, and those engines were dime a dozen, and the dwarf car and the mini sprint guys would buy them up, and that's what they used for power.
That's you got to do whatever you got to do to stay in business.
Towards the end, and the motorcycle engines started drying up. They didn't have enough to go around.
Right.
They started getting prices were starting to go up, and then people would have to start rebuilding them. forget which one of them made Suzuki. One of them just the trainings weren't strong enough, so there was one brand that everybody was sought out.
Right. I think it was a Kawasaki.
Yeah,
Wasn't it?
Kawasaki. Yeah.
Because I remember a lot of them ran the Cowies, and Scribbolito moved back to Texas. And
he got a bad rep right there.
Yeah, unfortunately,
I think something else happened. I think he passed away.
he did pass away. It was complications to his wreck.
Paralysis.
Yeah.
And he helped sponsor us when we went to Pikes Peak too. That was pretty cool. He helped us. He's a good guy.
He was a big dude.
He was.
I mean, he's big, tall guy.
Happy go lucky though, man. He always had a smile on his face.
Well, I remember the first time meeting him, standing in there at the boring bar, and Dad's teaching him how to bore cylinders.
No doubt.
So I mean, it's the circle that we run with everybody knowing of, or it overlaps because you may not know this person, but you know that person and that person that knows him, and you're doing things with each other and you don't even realize it.
Mm-hmm. And where we live is a hotbed of all kinds of activity. We're lucky. It's not like back east where where do you go get a chain for your bike at?
In some cases, everything's stretched out.
Between here and Los Angeles, I mean, we have whatever we want done,
Oh, yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, there's an amazing amount of talent just in San Diego County. Well, the motorcycles, look at all the champions that came from San Diego.
Yeah.
Well, just San Diego, there's all kinds of champions.
Capital for a while there.
Yeah, I think when we were racing for Honda, I think it was 83 or 84, Lemon Grove Honda sold more three-wheelers than anybody in the nation.
I believe that.
And also they were selling way more three-wheelers than two-wheel machines combined.
By far.
And then what happened is they transitioned into four-wheelers, and because it was a four-wheel drive and a sport quad, the four-wheelers were selling more and making Honda more money than the dirt bikes, but the four-wheeler guys weren't getting the money. They weren't sponsoring. They never brought
factory backing.
They did at a later date, but they never stuck to it. Like right now, they stopped making TRX 450Rs in 14. Yamaha is killing it. They have a great platform. And it's strong. It's durable. The transmission's made for being an ATV. It makes good power. And the hybrid industry, where they put motorcycle engines in them, most everybody uses Honda engines. But that when you go to the production rule bike, the Yamaha is what you run on the East Coast. So if you're going to woods race or you're going to race motocross, you run the Yamaha. If you're going to run in the desert, generally you run a Honda. You're still a Honda platform in the desert or in the off-road environment is still the best platform.
That was a lot of fun riding in the woods back east on the 350X. Dead engine starts, and line up, land rush style, and kick it when the flag goes.
Yeah, they still run them that way for the XC stuff.
Or something.
Yeah, hand on your helmet.
Kick it or something. Yeah, that's why they did that way.
And on the old CZs,
That's the way they started the bikes for a while.
At El Cajon Speedway, we were talking about.
Yeah, well, I had a slick shift, so
I say they had a cheater clutch, a lever.
You just hold your foot down. When the flag goes, you got your hand up. You just grab the bar and you're gone. But
on the CZs, we used to have a lever you could hold with your ankle, with a clutch lever.
Yeah.
So you hold it in, you do your thing up here, and just take off.
Look, when they put your hand up, it's guys,
And that's when we had a rubber band start too, probably.
Yeah, I got snapped to that rubber band a few times.
Going back to what Mark said, when we were at Honda set aside millions of dollars for road race, motocross, and flat track. But our budget always came from sales. Because when you looked at, there was some data that showed that Honda three-wheeler sales were big. They sold more three-wheelers than motorcycle, dirt bikes combined by a good margin.
We had some money in engineering went into the motorcycle.
Yeah.
Right.
Now it went to the jet airplane. And
those robots they do too.
Yeah,
Do they do robots too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're big on the, like, looks like a humanoid robot.
It's Asmo or something they call it. Or
Asmo or something.
something. Yeah. But it's used all over, in for trade shows.
Walking and talking robot.
I'm scared.
You should see it. When you get a little time, look at these robot videos. These guys do backflips now. They carry guns. They got guys behind them, like knocking them down. They got live ammo guns. And they're shooting targets and, they're aggressive.
Elon Musk wants to put a chip in our brain or transfer our thought into a robot, or our mind power into a robot. So look out. Here we come.
Wow.
So, Dad, are you ready for your consciousness to be loaded into a robot?
Well, you better hurry. At my age, there's not a whole lot there.
Well, you never know. Mark, I want to thank you so much for coming and sitting down with me. I would love to do this again if you're up for it, because we didn't even touch on all the stories and all the things that there are to talk about. And if you guys are into it, we could schedule another one and have you guys sit down and then we can build on what we've talked about. And I'm sure there's more stories and more things that.
One story leads you to another that you forgot,
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I mean, some of the things that I remember as an outsider kid that you were talking about, I remember looking at the magazine or seeing the poster and just freaking, So for me, it's a fanboy moment because when I was growing up, you guys were the guys.
So you grew up then, you said?
No, I didn't. Well, I misspoke. When I was younger, an adolescent, well, maybe I still am, but, I still play with kids' toys for a living, so I don't think I'm ever going to grow up.
No, you don't want to.
Yeah, grown-ups are no fun.
You have to have responsibility.
Well, I have that, but, I love building ATVs. And that's my thing. I've done a little bit of ATV racing, three-wheeler racing, motorcycles.
I love coming here and talking to you. I'm glad Mark showed up too, because I get a lot of inquiries. We posted a few things on social media. We've been on a couple of motorcycle rides. Wherever I go, almost if it's ATV related, hey, how's Mark? How's Mark doing?
Well, Mark, to be totally honest with you, your name with a couple other names in my feedback that I get from people, they want to know. They want to hear your stories. They want to, hey, whatever happened to Wax? I mean, what about this? What about that? I can't answer those questions because it's not until tonight I had met you face to face. So now I can put you out there and your fans can hear it. And I guarantee you I'm going to get massive people asking for more because there's so many more stories. Well, I saw this and I saw that and I remember this and I remember that. And that's basically how this all started. Was nobody's ever telling the story. There's no information. There's nowhere I can go to get the stories out of his head or out of his head or out of your head. There's no place I can go.
Right. Well, we didn't have internet when we started, or some of this.
That's where this podcast came from. It's all based on wanting to talk to people in the industry. Yes, I talked to modern day. Like earlier today, I spoke to Chad Weenan, 8-time national motocross champion. But those are the guys of today. But the stories that he tells will roll off into the future. But the stories that you guys tell, it's the foundation of our industry, and it's where it all began. And that's what I want to get out. I want to extract those things that the kids can hear, so that they understand it. You didn't, just because you did that big double, you didn't build the industry. This is how the industry was built.
Definitely, Mark was definitely a pioneer, and he seemed like to have strong memories of going to the races and thinking, man, that guy hauls ass. And I was lucky enough to ride with him. And then we mentioned a few races.
I remember him as a lot taller and slender, though.
Well, you look at the photos, beans that I'm looking up at the age that I was, yeah, I mean, I thought you were a giant, you know?
Nope, just me.
But, well, yeah, I get it.
You probably got that old picture of, I think it was probably the first team. And we're stuck
Oh, with a shirt like that almost for a long
Yeah,
sleeve.
we were all 6 of us, and McCoy was sitting
With a banner behind us on it. That was
I remember that photo, but I'm talking about the photo that I remembered mostly was a 4-wheeler photo.
Oh,
So it was probably an 86 version. It was a desert race photo. You know, you could see the wax on the seat, and he was standing behind the bike. And they might have had 2 machines together. I don't remember who the other person was.
That's a hot shit.
No, it was another rider. But I mean, I just remember that because, I mean, that's just the things that you remember when you're a kid. There's just specific memories that you have. You know, the 83, 84, 250R, who was the guy on that? That was Dean, you know, with his frickin' ass dragging on his video and his
82.
heel.
I did 82.
His is an 80. The one poster I had was 83.
That was me on 82.
No, it was Dean. The one that I had was Dean.
Yeah,
No,
show it to me.
I don't have it anymore. It was hanging in Danny's Machine Works
He
forever.
was the poster boy of going sideways.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where
sprint car style.
his heels frickin' holding him on the seat, you know.
That's 82.
Rah, you know.
His body was built perfect for that, the way he could hang off the 300.
Everybody,
His short legs.
everybody tried to emulate that, you know. Everybody.
He was the first one to come up with the golf cart tires or whatever we use, the little smoothies that I know of anyway.
I talked to Jim Babbitt and
Turf Savers, Carlisle's.
yeah, Turf Tamers, and they also had the slick version of it, which is the lawnmower tire. And I was speaking to Jim Babbitt, and he said he remembers when he was racing at 117, and they raced with the big balloon tires, and then immediately they had the hard little go-kart tires.
And at the same time, that's when Mitchell Wheel came out with the aluminum wheels. And that was, at the time, the coolest thing in the world. Here we got spun aluminum rims. You know,
They were all 2-piece before.
yeah, but still, it was aluminum polished wheels.
Well, I'm old enough to had to have fixed a lot of those 2-piece wheels. You know, I hated that. Thanks, Dad. I hated that job. You know.
So we had
I'm glad I found something you like.
Well, gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up here tonight, and I would just like to invite you back, and we'll set up a time. The team here at ATV-TALK would love your feedback. Please email us at hello@atvtalkpodcast.com.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, don't forget to rate us on all the available platforms and share us with your loved ones. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook for more ATV Talk news. See you next time.